Throughout the years, the NFL has seen a drastic shift in the level of physicality in the game of football. Players in those days simply played despite being injured as they didn't want the next player in line to take their job. Quarterbacks were brutally hit every play, and you didn't see them looking at the ref every time they got touched. This was a time when concussions were categorized as a whiplash or a knock to the head. You just didn't see players come off the field as much as we do today. However, in one particular game in 1984, we would see two teams literally go to war for every yard of space on the field as if they were playing for their lives. And after every vicious hit after hit, the body count in the change of quarterbacks in this game stood at 5 and also included a combined 10 sacks, 6 fumbles, and 4 interceptions. Oh, by the way, there was also one player who had a couple teeth knocked out. Guys, quickly before we jump into this video, if you watched and enjoyed some of my content, do me a favor and turn on all notifications. A lot of you have complained that my videos aren't getting out to your home pages, and the ongoing joke is, I'm being blackballed by YouTube. Also, let me know in the comments section if there's a certain NFL story, game, or player you'd like me to feature in one of my videos. If it gets enough likes, I'll be sure to add it into my basket.
Billy Martin, straight from Brooklyn, better known as Brooklyn. Never taking shorts because Brooklyn's the bomb.
The year was 1983, and the LA Raiders had just won Super Bowl 18 after they defeated the then Washington Redskins with a convincing 38-9 victory. This was the Raiders' third Super Bowl in franchise history and were led by quarterback Jim Plunkett in both games. On the other side of the field, Washington had just won the Super Bowl 2 years prior and were led by quarterback Joe Theismann. Raiders running back Marcus Allen won the Super Bowl MVP as he rushed for a $191 and 2 touchdowns off of only 20 carries. In the following 1984 season, the Raiders entered the campaign as defending Super Bowl champions and got off to a terrific 4-0 start after wins over Houston, Green Bay, Kansas City, and San Diego. This was then followed by a loss to their division rivals, the Denver Broncos, and 3 consecutive wins, and then another crushing home loss to the Broncos to the tune of 22-19. So you can kind of get a sense of how the Raiders were feeling as they traveled to Soldier Field to face the Chicago Bears in a Week 10 matchup. Losing 2 close games to your division rivals always leaves a bitter taste in your mouth, especially against an arch rival like the Broncos, who the Raiders once owned for a stretch of almost 20 straight games. And now here they were, going up against a Buddy Ryan's defense that was led by Richard Dent, Dan Hampton, and Mike Singletary. The 6-3 Bears headed into this game with one of the NFL's most stingiest defense and were led on the offensive side of the football by quarterback Jim McMahon and Hall of Fame running back Walter Payton. Moreover, this was a year prior to the Bears' 85 defense that would go down in history as the greatest defense of all time. Buddy Ryan's 46 defense was a formation of 8 men in the box, 6 along the line of scrimmage, and 3 defensive backs. And this defense was relentless, coming at you at every angle and literally putting the fear of God to opposing offenses. Simply put, these guys were just absolutely ruthless. So you can kinda understand how this game became known as the most vicious NFL game ever played. How vicious was it? Well, according to then Bears head coach Mike Ditka, he called it the most brutal football game I've ever watched. So on November 4th, 1984, the Silver and Black knew they simply couldn't just rely on their star running back, as the Bears were the toughest team against the run, and you would always have to go through one man in particular, middle linebacker and Hall of Famer Mike Singletary. On top of that, it didn't help the Raiders that they were without their Super Bowl winning quarterback, as Plunkett was sidelined with a pulled abdominal muscle. Backup quarterback Mark Wilson took over the reins in Week 6 and looked to lead the Raiders against the Bears' vaunted defense, who just the week before recorded an incredible 11 sacks against the Vikings. So early in the first quarter, this game saw both teams having to punt, and you can clearly get the feeling that this was a game where every single inch was going to matter and that defense was going to play a pivotal role in the outcome of this matchup. Points were going to be scarce, so both teams had to make the most of their opportunities on the offense. And when the Raiders got the ball back on the offense, the Bears defense simply made their presence felt. They attacked Mark Wilson as the quarterback knew he was going to be in for a rough day, and on one particular play, the Raiders QB took a huge sack from Otis Wilson that left him on the sidelines. While the Raiders trainers attended to Wilson, Bears QB Jim McMahon connected with receiver Willie Gault on a 50-yard pass that was followed up by a Walter Payton 18-yard run in his career prior to filling in. Nonetheless, Hum jump-started the offense and connected with Marcus Allen to get past the 50-yard marker and onto the Bears side of the field. But on the very next play, the third-string quarterback made a huge blunder when he saw the oncoming pass rush beelining at him and frantically decided to hand the ball off to his offensive tackle, causing a fumble and a Bears recovery. Chicago didn't fully take advantage of the turnover as they decided to forgo the 3 points and run the ball on 4th and 1, only to be stopped at the line by the Raiders defense. And on the next ensuing drive, the Silver and Black got a glimmer of hope when Wilson came back on the field to lead the offense. But all that would soon be put to an end as Wilson injured his hand when his thumb connected with a lineman's helmet at the end of his throw. With a brutally injured thumb, Wilson had to get off the field again, but only after he took a shot on a wobbly pass that was intercepted by the defense. And moments later, the Bears took a 14-point lead after an 8-yard touchdown run by Walter Payton. So in came David Humm again, who ended up just getting pulverized by the Bears defense and in the end threw an interception right into the hands of Chicago safety Gary Fencing. And as the game wore on, each quarterback from both teams just kept taking hit after hit, and it just wasn't the players who got involved, but also the refs. It got so bad that both QBs obviously became influenced by the defense, which led to all the sacks and turnovers in the game. And at one point, Humm even took a shot that knocked out a couple of his teeth. And years later, Raiders legend Howie Long admitted he threatened Bears guard Kurt Becker and told him that he was going to see him in the parking lot after the game and beat him in front of his family. Yeah, I said it. He spent the day flying over the pile and hitting defensive backs late. He was my target for the game, but I missed him and sprained my back, so I was upset. Everyone has their favorite threat, and that's mine. So going back to the game, with just a little over a minute left in the first half, Humm just took one too many hits and blew out his knee. With Wilson sporting a mangled right thumb, the coaching staff then decided to turn to their punter/emergency quarterback, Ray Guy. So picture this, your Ray Guy, a lanky first round 23rd overall draft pick who's 6'3" and weighed $195, and your team wants you to come in against a Bears defense that included 3 Hall of Famers all ready to pounce at any quarterback in front of them. So Ray did what any sane person would have done and simply told his coach, "Nah, I'm good." Ray refused to go in, and in a crazy turn of events, Mark Wilson came out of the Raiders locker room and told his coach, "Thumb or no thumb, put me in, coach."
Guy, who was a brilliant baseball pitcher in high school, he was drafted 4 times by major league teams. He can literally kneel on the 50-yard line and has the arm strength to throw the ball into the end zone. He can throw the ball as hard and as far as anyone. The matter is how much of the offense does he have at his fingertips, and he has to work it against the most unique defense in the NFL, perhaps. No, it'll be Wilson.
I think what happened is that Mark Wilson came over and said, "Look, bad thumb or no bad thumb, put me back in there." And there he is. He's come back. You saw one of his teammates had to snap his helmet for him, his chin strap, because he can't use that thumb to pop it.
In stepped Wilson again for the 3rd time, but he was obviously severely injured, and you can tell how bad his thumb was as he had to get help of a teammate to fasten his chin strap to his helmet. That being said, the Raiders were in decent field position after picking off Jim McMahon, and Wilson was able to get the Raiders within field goal range with the help of a 15-yard roughing the passer penalty. The Raiders knocked in the 3 points and were now trailing by 11 heading into the half. As halftime came, the Raiders locker room had players and coaching staff argue about who was going to go back in the game as neither quarterback wanted to go back in. It got to the point where NBC, who was broadcasting the game, didn't know either, and they clearly displayed that when revealing the second half lineups on television. Under the Raiders quarterback graphic, NBC simply had it listed with a bunch of question marks. Anyways, Wilson finally took the onus on himself and went back in under center for the second half. The Raiders ran the ball the first few plays before Wilson attempted to throw his first pass, and it didn't go so well. The QB couldn't grip the ball properly with his thumb and forefinger. That being said, the game went back and forth with both teams mainly running the ball. LA eventually got within 8 points after another field goal midway through the 3rd quarter. And while the Raiders had to make numerous quarterback changes throughout the game, Bears QB Jim McMahon didn't go unscathed as he got knocked out in the 3rd quarter. When he went down, cameras showed him wincing on the sideline, and NBC play-by-play man Dick Enberg called the injury a bruised back, which later turned out to be a lacerated kidney. So you can kind of get a sense of how injuries back then were being misdiagnosed and overlooked. McMahon ended up spending 2 weeks in the hospital and missed the rest of the season. It was so bad that years later, his agent recalled when he met McMahon in the locker room after the injury and found his client standing by the toilet, pissing blood. Anyways, this game was dominated by the Bears defense and Walter Payton as he finished the game with 27 touches for $111 and 2 touchdowns. The Bears sacked the Raiders quarterback a total of 9 times, 4.5 alone from Richard Dent, which gave them an incredible 20 sacks in 2 straight games. Chicago finished the game kicking 2 more field goals for a final score of 17-6 and improved their record to 7-4. All in all, you can understand why this game was considered the most vicious NFL game ever played. The level of hits dished out and the constant changing of quarterbacks in this game was just absolutely insane. The Chicago 46 defense was no joke, and in the following 1985 season, this defense would go on to become, in my opinion, the greatest NFL defense of all time. They propelled the Bears to a 15-1 record in the 85 season and went on to win the Super Bowl. Mark Wilson spent 10 seasons in the NFL, but was never able to match the heights of his time at BYU, where he was an All-American and a teammate of Bears QB Jim McMahon. David Humm never played another down in the NFL, and Ray Guy finished an illustrious NFL career with 3 Super Bowls, 7 Pro Bowls, 6 first-team All-Pro selections, and oh yeah, he was the only punter to be enshrined into the Pro Football Hall of Fame.